Okay, let's start with something really foundational. Imagine a healthcare system built just for, well, the most vulnerable people, right? Children, new mothers. It's a space where, every single decision counts, and any innovation can genuinely change a life forever. Welcome to the Dup Dive. We're here to cut through the noise, get you the insights you need fast. So today we're taking a really close look at Rainbow Children's Medicare Limited RCML, let's call them. We're digging into their latest unaudited financials and strategic moves for the quarter ending June 30th, 2025.
That's right. And our goal here really is to uncover what's driving them, the key insights, the operational nuts and bolts, and where they're heading. We're looking beyond just the spreadsheet numbers,
Yeah.
trying to grasp the real world impact. And we're basing this on their latest earnings presentation, their press release, and what came out of their recent board meeting.
Okay, perfect. So let's start at the beginning then. Who exactly is Rainbow Children's Medicare? What makes them, different in India's healthcare scene? It seems pretty crowded.
Absolutely. Well, fundamentally, RCML is a real pioneer in specialized pediatric care and perinatal health care across India. Their scale is pretty impressive. We're talking a network of 20 hospitals and 5 clinics that's spread across 7 cities with a total bed capacity, get this, of 2,035 beds. And what's really distinct is their dual focus. You've got the Rainbow Children's Hospital side, that's for comprehensive pediatric services, everything from like newborn and pediatric ICU, multi-specialty care, right up to quaternary stuff like organ transplants. Then there's Birthright by Rainbow. That arm is dedicated to women's care, so perinatal services, complex obstetrics, multidisciplinary fetal care, even genetics and fertility.
Okay, that scale and the two specific focuses definitely jump out. But what about their core philosophy? They talk about this gold standard of patient care. How do they actually deliver on that promise, especially in these really sensitive areas?
Yeah, that gold standard thing is fascinating because it seems genuinely core to their identity. It's not just marketing speak. For instance, they were the first pediatric hospital in India to get JCI accreditation for 2 of their main hub hospitals,
Yeah.
Hyderabad and Bengaluru.
JCI, that's the Joint Commission International.
Exactly. It's a huge global benchmark for patient safety and quality. So
Yeah.
that's a big deal. And it doesn't stop there. Their Birthright Fertility Center in Kandapur also got JCI reaccreditation recently. Plus, 13 of their hospitals are accredited by NABH, which is India's own national board. So how do they do it? Well, their approach is built on a few key things. Multidisciplinary teams, full-time consultants leading the clinical services, not just visiting doctors, 247 commitment, and importantly, creating a really child-centric environment. They actually spend significant capex on designing hospital interiors to be comforting and congenial for kids, believing it aids faster recovery.
That level of detail, it really sounds like it comes from a personal place. What's the story behind it? How did Dr. Ramesh Kancharla, the chairman and MD, start Rainbow?
It's actually a pretty inspiring origin story. Dr. Kancharla apparently grew up in an agricultural village and saw firsthand the lack of good healthcare access. That really motivated him. He went on to study medicine, specialized in pediatric gastroenterology and liver disease over in the UK. And when he came back, he felt strongly that, children shouldn't suffer just because specialized medical facilities weren't available. So he founded Rainbow Children's Hospitals back in 1999. Now they're marking 25 years. It's been a journey of real milestones, establishing that whole standalone pediatric specialty hospital concept, integrating perinatal care, getting investment from groups like CDC, listing successfully on the stock exchange, and constantly pushing into more complex, cutting-edge quaternary care.
Okay, connecting that vision to their strategy today. Let's talk about this hub and spoke model. It sounds like more than just jargon. It seems like a core strategic framework. Can you break down how that actually works to optimize care and give them an edge, especially in a market as diverse as India?
Yeah, it's a really smart setup strategically. Essentially, they set up 1 or maybe 2 large hub hospitals in each major city or metro area. These are the bigger ones, 150 to 250 beds. They have the super specialists, the advanced tertiary and quaternary care capabilities. Then, around these hubs, they establish maybe 5 to 8 spoke hospitals. These are smaller, usually 50 to 100 beds.
Okay.
Their role is primary, secondary, and sort of basic tertiary care. They handle emergencies, stabilize patients.
And refer the really complex cases back to the hub.
Exactly. It means they can cover a much wider area within a city. It's also financially smarter for expansion. They can scale up more gradually. Plus, it creates network effects, right? And critically, it lets them reach into Tier 2 cities, which are often underserved. They have regional spokes up to, say 200, 250 kilometers away from the main city hubs. They've even built robust transport networks specifically for getting sick newborns and children from surrounding districts to the right level of care quickly.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, here's something that really caught my attention. You mentioned they're building a unique talent ecosystem, not just hospitals. What does that look like for their doctors and staff, and how does that feed into delivering consistent, high-quality care?
This is definitely one of their key differentiators, I think. Their doctor engagement model is quite distinct. Doctors are primarily full-time, on a retainer basis, and committed 24/7.
So not just visiting consultants.
Right. It fosters a real team-based approach,
Hmm.
which is absolutely vital when you're talking about emergency situations or intensive care. It's not just about hiring talent, though. It's about nurturing it from within. They're recognized as an MRC-PCH examination center. That's a major postgraduate pediatric qualification from the UK. We're also a training center for India's National Board of Examinations. And get this, they run the country's largest pediatric D&B training program within the private healthcare sector. D&B is the Diplomate of National Board, a postgraduate medical degree.
Wow, largest in the private sector.
Yeah. So this huge focus on in-house training, it leads to incredibly high retention rates and loyalty among their medical teams. That kind of stability is crucial in these highly specialized fields. You need that continuity, that shared expertise.
It certainly sounds like a solid foundation. So, okay, with this hub and spoke strategy and this focus on talent, how's it playing out in terms of actual expansion in their current operations? Are they growing aggressively?
They definitely are showing significant growth momentum.
Yeah.
Just recently, on July 1st, 2025, they acquired a majority stake in Pershanti Hospital in Warangal. That adds another 100 beds.
Warangal, that's a Tier 2 city in Telangana.
Precisely. It really strengthens their foothold in that region, which has a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
And looking forward, their pipeline is, well, ambitious, but seems well planned. They're planning to add 250 new beds in this fiscal year, FY25-26. That's across Rajahmundry, Electronic City, and Hennur in Bengaluru. Then another 130 beds are coming in FY26-27 in Coimbatore. And then a big jump, 450 beds in FY27-28 planned for Gurugram in Sector 44 and Sector 56.
So doing the math quickly, that takes their total capacity up quite a bit.
It does. It'll push their total bed capacity to 2,865 beds. That's a pretty significant expansion from where they are now.
All right, let's shift gears a bit and dive into the financial pulse of the company. The Q1 FY26 numbers. What are they telling us? The year-on-year growth looks pretty solid, but I noticed a bit of a dip compared to the previous quarter. Can you help us unpack that?
Sure. So year over year, the picture is definitely strong. Revenue from operations came in at INR 3,529.3 million. That's up 6.9%. Their EBITDA, that's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, basically a measure of operating profit, saw a really healthy jump, up 10.6% to INR 1,036.2 million. And importantly, their EBITDA margin actually improved by nearly a full percentage point, 98 basis points, reaching 29.4%.
Okay, better profitability then.
Exactly. And the bottom line, the net profit, or PIT, showed a really significant increase, up 35.4%. That reached INR 538.1 million, pushing their PEAT margin up over 3 percentage points to 15.2%. So year over year, a very positive story.
Right. But what about that sequential dip? Revenue down a bit, EBITDA down more. What's the explanation there?
Right. Compared to the previous quarter, Q4 of FY25, there was a dip. Revenue down 4.6%, EBITDA down 9.7%, PANTI down 4.9%. Now, management puts this down mostly to typical seasonal trends. Q1, the April to June quarter, often sees a bit of a slowdown in certain areas like maybe general pediatrics, perhaps due to school holidays, summer travel, that kind of thing.
Okay. Seasonality.
Yeah. So while, a dip is still a dip, the fact that they achieve strong year-over-year growth despite these expected seasonal headwinds, it does suggest an underlying resilience in the business. The core strategy seems to be working.
That context is definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond those headline financial figures, how are things looking operationally? The gears turning smoothly. And I know you mentioned they have some really compelling patient stories that show their clinical work.
Yeah, let's look at the operational KPIs. Their total bed capacity stayed stable at 1,935, with about 1,523 of those operational during the quarter. Occupancy rate was 40.2%. Now, that was slightly down both year over year and quarter over quarter, again, likely linked to that seasonality we just talked about, and also the fact that newer hospitals take time to ramp up to full occupancy.
Makes sense. What about patient volumes?
Kind of a mixed bag there. Inpatient discharges were actually down just slightly, about 1% year over year. But outpatient consultations are a nice 6% increase, hitting nearly 330,000. Deliveries were down about 2%. But here's a really crucial metric, ARPOB, average revenue per occupied bed.
Right, how much they make per bed per day.
Exactly. And that's all strong growth. It hit INR 63,323. That's up 13% compared to the same quarter last year and up 9% from the previous quarter.
Wow, 13% year-over-year increase in ARPOB. What does that tell you?
It strongly suggests they're generating significantly more revenue from each occupied bed. This usually points towards handling more complex cases, a richer case mix, which aligns with their strategy of focusing on tertiary and quaternary care. Also, their average length of stay, or ALOs, actually decreased slightly, down 4% year over year to 2.66 days. That can indicate increased efficiency in care delivery.
So more revenue per patient and potentially getting them home a bit faster when appropriate.
Seems like it. And one more thing on operations, those newer hospitals, the ones under 5 years old, they're showing really promising signs. Occupancy up 20% year over year and ARPOB up 10%. So they seem to be scaling up successfully.
That's good news for their expansion strategy. Any other operational shifts?
Just a slight shift noted in the payer mix. In Q1 FY26, it was about 48.2% cash payments and 51.8% insurance or corporate payments. That's kind of a flip from the same quarter last year where cash was slightly higher, maybe reflecting broader trends in insurance penetration.
Interesting. Okay, these numbers paint a picture of efficiency and complexity. But like we said, behind the numbers are real people, real families. Can you share some of those patient stories? That's where you really see the impact, I think. Oh, absolutely. And these cases really do showcase the depth of their expertise. For example, there was a 15-year-old patient with sickle beta thalassemia. This condition meant the patient had needed over 30 blood transfusions already and had developed serious complications, like a vascular necrosis, where bone tissue dies due to a lack of blood supply.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
Terribly. But at Rainbow's Hospital in Marathahale, Bengaluru, they performed a successful bone marrow transplant. And it wasn't just the transplant, they also managed the complex post-transplant issues expertly. A truly life-changing outcome for that teenager.
Amazing.
Yeah. What else?
Then there was a case involving a tiny newborn, just 5 days old, born with a very rare condition, congenital absence of the sternum, basically born without a breastbone, a severe chest wall deformity. The surgical team at the Rainbow Children's Heart Institute in Hyderabad performed a complex reconstructive surgery using specialized muscle flaps, pectoralis major myocutaneous flaps. The baby was stabilized and eventually discharged, facing a much brighter future thanks to that intervention.
Incredible work. It covers such a range.
It really does. On the fertility side, Birthright by Rainbow had this really emotional case. A couple, late 30s, who had sadly experienced multiple miscarriages. They'd actually been advised elsewhere to use donor eggs. But the team at Birthright developed a customized IVF protocol specifically for the mother, using her own eggs. And against the odds, she conceived healthy twins within a year. Just imagine the joy. It really speaks to that personalized, advanced approach to fertility care.
That's just wonderful. Truly hope rekindled.
Absolutely. And then there's innovation. Dr. Nagaswara Rao Konedi, who's a senior pediatric cardiologist there, actually received a U.S. patent for an invention called the Conar MF occluder.
A U.S. patent for a medical device.
Yes. It's a device used for closing certain heart defects. And they successfully used this device in a minimally invasive procedure on a 22-year-old patient who had a rare condition, a ruptured sinus of Valsalva. It highlights their leadership not just in care, but in contributing to medical advancements.
Bleeding edge stuff.
Definitely. And one last one, just to show the complexity they handle. A neonatal dengue case. Elite preterm baby, just 2.6 kilograms, born to a mother who had dengue fever during pregnancy. The baby developed severe complications, including shock, multi-organ dysfunction, and even a subsequent bacterial brain infection that required neurosurgery placement of a VP shunt. Managing something like that requires incredible coordination between neonatal, critical care, and surgical teams. The baby gradually recovered, showcasing their capability in handling these really complex, multifaceted neonatal infections.
Those stories are, well, they're powerful. They really bring the mission to life, don't they? So looking at all this, the strategy, the numbers, these outcomes, how is the leadership, how is management framing this performance and the path forward?
Well, Dr. Kancharla, the chairman and MD, in his commentary, he did acknowledge those seasonal trends we talked about, particularly impacting general pediatrics and maybe some intensive care volumes in their more established, mature hospitals.
So acknowledging the reality.
Yes, exactly. But he strongly emphasized the momentum coming from the newer facilities. They're scaling up well, contributing more significantly to growth. He also pointed to the sustained growth in their higher-end services, the tertiary and quaternary care, which confirms that strategic focus is paying off. He specifically mentioned the Warangel acquisition again, calling it a key step for tapping into Tier 2 growth.
And priorities going forward.
Pretty clear. Continuing to advance their clinical capabilities, making sure operations are excellent across the board, and, crucially, ensuring those new hospital projects launch on schedule. He expressed, a lot of confidence in their model, their team's expertise, and their ability to execute these ambitious plans in a disciplined way.
It sounds very focused, but underpinning all this ambition, you need a solid foundation, right?
Yep.
We touched on talent, but what about the financial strength for this growth? And maybe the less glamorous but vital stuff like governance.
That's a really important point. And financially, they seem quite secure for this expansion phase. As of the end of Q1, June 30th, 2025, they were sitting on a substantial amount of liquidity. We're talking INR 7,355 million in cash equivalents, fixed deposits, and mutual fund investments.
7 billion rupees. That's a lot of cash.
It is. And the key thing management states is that these funds, plus the cash they expect to generate internally from operations, should be enough to fully cover all the planned capital expenditure for the new hospitals. They're not necessarily relying on heavy new debt for this phase.
Self-funded growth, essentially.
Largely, it seems. They did invest about INR 415 million in CapEx just in Q1, mostly on upgrading existing facilities, which shows they're continually reinvesting too.
Yeah.
So that strong balance sheet is definitely a major underpinning.
Okay, and governance. Board structure.
Seems robust on paper. Their board of directors has a good mix. 57% are independent directors, which is well above regulatory requirements, I believe, and 14% are women directors.
So good oversight, diverse perspectives.
That's the idea. It's important for navigating growth, maintaining investor confidence, and ensuring ethical practices. They also have standard committees like audit, risk management, and a committee focused on CSR and ESG, corporate social responsibility, and environmental social governance factors.
Right, ESG is increasingly important. What about key people and keeping them motivated?
Well, one notable recent development was designating Dr. Pranathi Subramaniam Madirala as senior management personnel. She's their clinical director for obstetrics and fetal medicine. Huge experience over 35 years. Highly qualified, MD, DGO, DMB, even an FR SORAC from the UK. She's a subspecialist in urogynecology. Her focus includes promoting normal deliveries, preventive care, holistic wellness. Sounds very aligned with their ethos. Apparently, she's also big on mentorship and philanthropy. Even got invited by UNICEF for some work. Having leaders like her is vital.
Definitely adds depth.
And to keep talent motivated across the board, they recently approved an employee stock option scheme, ESOP 2025. They granted just over 140,000 stock options in this first tranche. That's a classic way to align employee interests with the company's long-term success and share the rewards of growth.
Makes sense. Okay, so wrapping this all up then. If we synthesize our deep dive today, it feels like Rainbow Children's Medicare is really carving out a strong niche in specialized pediatric and perinatal care. They're using that unique hub-and-spoke model effectively, coupled with a really smart strategy for nurturing talent. That seems to be driving their performance. Yes, there are some seasonal dips in the numbers, but the overall financial picture looks efficient, ARPOB growth is strong, and they have a clear, financially sound plan for major expansion across India. And underpinning it all are those incredible patient stories that show the real impact.
Absolutely. It's a compelling picture. And maybe as a final thought for you listening, consider the broader implications here. What does a highly specialized, child-centric healthcare model like Rainbow's aiming for that gold standard tell us? Not just about changing individual lives, which it clearly does, but about shaping the future of public health in rapidly developing regions. What can we learn from their approach about making truly specialized, high-quality medical care more accessible for everyone, especially the most vulnerable? Something to think about.